Making art I actually love to do is helping me to live a better life, but it comes with a challenge. I love to make art. I love to create music, games, and draw and write. Um, but I've always dreamed of being able to do it full time. And with full time, I mean something I can actually focus on, rather than being distracted with other stuff on the side that takes too much of my energy. But it all comes down with the most obvious problem. How can I create enough income from doing art without sacrificing too much from my freedom of doing what I actually like to do? I've understood that it's very common within people who create art. They find it hard to discover a medium which accepts their work without them having to sacrifice too much on the original reason why they started to make art in the first place. As I've been in the game industry for over a decade now, I can totally relate to that. There are so many game ideas I find interesting to develop, but I found it really hard to create those to be appealing enough for enough people to create a decent cash flow. I'm a bi-weekly single parent of 3 boys myself, which makes my time very restricted. I don't have the energy to work on my projects during the nights after a crazy day at work and taking care of the kids after that. It's just impossible to fit in. I've tried that. It didn't work. Which makes it hard to keep this passion as a hobby. But obviously, I need the income to keep everything afloat. But for some reason, I never lost hope in finding a way to make my living through creating art. To spend a big portion of my life to create something meaningful for myself. To have the freedom in doing what I actually like to do. The freedom of doing what I actually like to do. That's where the challenge arises. During my career, I noticed that there are ways to do art that pleases most of the users around the internet. Then there are ways which are not that appealing, unless the user actually dive deeper into my creations. And hey, I cannot expect anyone to dive deeper if they don't even know what to expect and is there any value for them. If, as an example, the game I develop and publish is too unfamiliar from the beginning, even from the store page itself, how could anyone become interested in that? Let's take an example here from my journey so far. Just recently I released a game on Steam, which we found out to be very pleasant in our own household. It's been played by my kids, by my friends, and even by the kids around my neighborhood before it went live on Steam Early Access. Everyone who played it seemed to enjoy the game. They had fun. They had amazing discovery journeys in trying to figure out how to catch that new monster or how to defeat that one boss fight. And then the game went live on Steam, and almost nothing happened. It was just a few hundred players playing the game, and only a minority of them left some feedback or reviews. And from the reviews, I could see that most of the players who played the game for more than 1 hour found it appealing, fun, and even interesting. The rest did not really understand the game in any way. And no, I'm not blaming them. What I've learned from this is that most of the players don't have all that background and experiences with the game as, for example, the kids in our neighborhood, who had a thrill playing it. Most of the players were not here, experienced the game with us, having someone to guide them, someone to encourage them to try again. The experience is very different for the people who were not here. Why is this important lesson? I'm a solo game developer myself. Since I need to make the game itself, I have rather restricted resources in building an audience, forming a community, and promoting my works. But that's the thing I should find ways to do better, or be a major part of my process. Focus on delivering the experience along the journey of the creation itself, but also make it easier for everyone to understand what the game is about. What is the hook in it? How can I deliver that experience of being part of it and to understand the design for the people who are not here with me? If they just open up the game, it can be very hard for them to dig deeper into it and experience it if they don't know anything about the background of the journey or the design itself. Or why would it be interesting for them in the first place? If I ever want these people to have even close to that similar experience, I need to be able to deliver that experience to them through more clearer methods. If I want to create something meaningful for myself and expect people to experience that as closely as I designed it, I need to help them do it. I cannot just publish something online and expect someone to understand the whole thing. If I would like to create something that is easy to understand, I would have to change the design of my games to something entirely different. But as long as I want to keep my creative freedom in place, I need to focus on delivering more of the thoughts and experiences along the journey and from the game itself. It's not only about the end product, it's about sharing the journey that made it into reality, but also to make it very clear for anyone to understand the hook of the game. Because creating art with the feeling of freedom is a complicated route. If my aim is to create something authentic, something unique, or something that I find as an interesting thing to work with, I cannot forget the users who've never touched the game before. It can become something that they are not very familiar with. And for me, the interesting part is to experiment stuff, test new ways to do things and new approaches to tell stories and create graphics, and even the controls of the game. And unfortunately, this approach also includes a lot of bad decisions. And when I come up with those bad decisions, it's often something that most of the users are not familiar with, something they don't feel comfortable in playing. But how could I ever create something new without making failures and bad decisions? I could always copy existing methods and twist those a little to my own liking, but that's not enough for me. Even though if my experience would end up being similar to some existing games, I would then understand the creation process of that. I could learn the details and the reasoning behind it, instead of blindly copying something that exists already. And that's the part which makes the journey itself interesting for myself. Doing it in my own way and learning while doing. But the part I keep forgetting is that I need to be able to show the actual development journey and help people experience the design as well. I'm rather confident that my creations can be much more interesting and accessible for people if I'm able to do that, in addition to the kids in our neighborhood. To be honest, I don't know how I'm going to achieve that. I don't have an answer for that yet, but my finding is that I should find more ways to show the process of the development, but also to discover ways in presenting the hook of the design in much more clearer ways. Not just expect everyone to understand the end product on its own. So why I struggle with making art I actually love to do instead of choosing the easier road by creating something that is proven to work? Because being able to do all this is so much more than just the end product. I would even call it a lifestyle that I found working for myself. It's a lifestyle I've dreamed of having for as long as I remember, but I need to be able to learn new ways to help people access it and understand my creations much easier to keep going. I need to point out that this artistic dream of mine is not only affecting my work life, it's affecting basically everything in me. Suddenly I have time for my kids, for my physical and spiritual wellness. I'm more present. I listen more than I talk, and I even feel like each day is even better than the previous one. I feel like I'm healing. This may sound a little over the top when speaking of just being artistic, but at least for me, the effects seem to be very strong. The less I think about making super profitable products, the better I feel in almost all of the areas of my life. And that's the real freedom in my artistic dream, which I didn't even know existed. I do understand that this, like nothing in life, is permanent. But right now I want to keep on experimenting and continue through this bumpy road as long as I'm able. I feel that's the reason why art was invented in the first place, at least for myself. But thanks for listening for my thoughts. Be sure to drop a comment and tell me why you make art. Why do you keep doing it, and or why did you start making art in the first place? It would be great to hear your story. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel and join my Patreon. You can find the link on the description. So thank you very much for your time and have a great week.